Hello, we are back. This is the official Hammer Time podcast. I'm your host, as always, Cade, and along with me is my good colleague Jake, and we are going over part 2 of our long-awaited Big 12 preview, where we did last week our basically top 4, top 5. I think it was top 4. Yeah, top 4, bottom 4.
Top 3.
Oh,
Bottom
3.
5.
Never mind. Same difference. Tomato, tomato. I don't know. Yeah, top half, bottom half, and now we're going through the juicy middle of this conference, which I like a lot better. Pause. Nothing crazy today, obviously. Like I said, same format as we've always been doing. You guys know the drill by now. At least you should. If you haven't, please go check out our group of 5 previews on Substack and on the podcast specifically. Last week, Jake also did the ACC dive in on there as well. And then our first part to this Big 12 preview. So this is part 2, like I said before. Later on this week, we aim to have Big 10 up and running. And then next week, we have the big bad SEC, which is going to be a blast. And we have a little surprise coming next week, just FYI. Just FYI. That's so condescending. Anyways, if you guys like what you're hearing from us for the last, I'd say almost a month now. I think we've been recording back for about a month now, which is kind of crazy. It's already flown by that fast. As always, feel free to follow us, subscribe, like, comment, leave a review wherever you are. We really appreciate it. We've gotten a lot of good feedback already on these first few previews, so looking to keep chugging along until week 0 comes. And we're officially 5 Saturdays? 4 Saturdays? Ooh, that's crazy. All right, we're almost there, fellas. It's okay. Anyways, we'll get straight in, picking up where we left off last week, and we're going to start with Kansas State Wildcats. Now, this is one of my favorite teams in this conference. I kind of don't like starting out with them because I wanted to save it a little bit, but I like getting it out of the way early. 29th in SP Plus. This team is big Colin Klein guy from watching him as like a fan perspective. Love this dude. This dude is incredible. And now we get to see him as a coach with a headset on. They won the Big 12 when he was playing, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think 2012.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like top 5 in the country in BCS polls for like
he was
a really good tenure. Yeah, and that as well. But came from working with Elko at A&M, and I mean, at least now, from going from Kleiman to Colin Klein, it's like from the fans' perspective in Kansas State and Manhattan specifically, they feel like it's a no-brainer. They really like what they saw of him at A&M, I myself included. Kleiman, we saw what that team was, and we pretty much like knew their identity right from the jump and right from the get-go. Like, they were top 20 team last year, and I think they played a really aggressive pass rush, defense wise. Like, they were just really aggressive on the line of scrimmage, and it was very evident. Offensively, is very, very underwhelming though for what they had. When you have a guy like Avery Johnson, Dylan Edwards, those guys not having those, they did what they could with what they were given. I should say they were just alternate between really successful displaying the athleticism, but it's like they made him too much of like a pocket passer when that's just not who he is. So I expect Klein is going to absolutely unlock this kid, and he is going to be something that we have not seen of him yet, and what we expected from year one personally. I love what the offensive line is going to be, hopefully, as if it all goes in. I know they return an all-conference left tackle. That is about it. But then again, they did bring in a good amount of experience from the portal, so I am excited for there. Joe Jackson is obviously a good replacement there at running back as well. So I'm not really concerned about the offense, to be honest with you. They did take a few hits on the defensive side. I know last week we talked about Austin Romaine going to Texas Tech, which was their captain on that defensive side. So huge loss there. But they believe they have a new defensive coordinator, Jordan Peterson, who is actually coming from A&M as well. Um, they were 58th in defensive SP plus last year, which was their worst since 2015 from what I'm seeing. And they didn't really have a lot of takeaways. They weren't a team that really produced a ton of success as far as like against the run, against the pass. Well, sorry, they had a decent amount of success against the pass. It was just turnovers weren't there, and they were pretty much getting ran all over. Not a good sign. So I'm expecting a lot of improvement this year. Um, I don't know. Probably dive into this. We'll dive into the schedule in a minute, but I mean, like this season doesn't start in Dublin anymore. I mean, like they get a decent, obviously, starting point this year, which I think helps a ton. Um, I like them a lot this year. I really think this team has a shot to make some noise and make some heads turn for sure. It just kind of depends on the defense, in my opinion, to see how an offensive mind like Colin Klein's turns into that side of the ball. So it's going to be interesting.
Yes, it's a lot new. You, it's a lot new, but not new. Is kind of the funny thing because like Klein was here when they won the Big 12 in 2022 and beat TCU, and so now he's back. He's like a folk hero for Kansas State fans. So you hope he does well because of how sick that would be for the fans and also the Big 12. Because, I mean, look what he did with Marcel Reed last year, who had a very up and down freshman year. And then, Klein comes in and they make the college football playoff. Marcel Reed was a front runner for Heisman for, I don't know, 10 weeks of the season, maybe. So he obviously knows how to get the best out of his quarterbacks, which is a good sign for Avery Johnson because he's been extremely disappointing since he took over as starter. I, as well as you, like Jackson a lot, Joe Jackson. So I think that's helpful, and I think that they're going to try and be a power running game. The big question offensively is the offensive line because you lose four starters, and yes, you portaled in guys from everywhere, but with a power scheme, you have to have not even five guys. You got to have seven, eight guys. You got to be able to pull. You have to be able to run counters and things like that. So I think at the end of the day, first down is going to be like the biggest priority for Klein and the offense because you can't have Avery Johnson sit there on 2nd and 8 or 3rd and 9 and expect this offense to do anything productive because he's not a pocket passer and he's very inconsistent through the air. He makes decisions that are mind boggling at times. So you definitely need to make him a runner first and then see what you can do after that. And it should help in the red zone, which I think is a big thing as well. If they can convert touchdowns, I think defensively is where it's going to hurt the most. I mean, 9 starters gone, 6 of them were all Big 12 honorees last year, so you're going to have transfer portal guys hit, and that could be where the problem is, especially when the problem last year kind of was also the defense as well. But I trust Klein. I don't know if it's like a 9-10 win season trust, but it's definitely like they're going to look better than they did last year, specifically offensively. And then I think you can build off that in year two. Going into the schedule, it looked a lot tougher last year than it does this year. Nichols to open the season, Washington State at home, which is kind of a big travel spot for Washington State. You get Tulane at home, who's definitely not going to be as good as they were last year. Start Big 12 play at Cincy, then you're on a bye. Houston, Kansas at home, back to back road games after that, at ASU, at Colorado. And then the biggest stretch for me in this season, which is Oklahoma State at TCU, Arizona. And then you finish with Iowa State. If you can go 2-1 in those Oklahoma State at TCU, Arizona, you have a very favorable at that point you are probably at 9 wins more than likely if you go 2-1 in that stretch. I think the big thing is going to be like facing Houston, facing at Arizona State, Oklahoma State, like these offenses that could be really good in a hurry. Arizona at TCU, like those types of teams is where I think Kansas State might struggle because I think defense is going to be behind offense. So if you get into a shootout, like, can you really expect Avery Johnson to put up 30 points consistently would be my only thing. But there are, I think it's a very favorable schedule. I do. I mean, you avoid Texas Tech, avoid BYU, avoid Utah. Like you're avoiding the top three, which is huge. So if Kansas State's 10-2 or 9-3 and like they're like a game behind or something, wouldn't shock me.
I think there's room for them to make the Big 12 championship if, for whatever reason, BYU and Utah are just down in the slumps. Which, like, we already talked about them, but like there's, like I said, there's possibilities on both of those sides for them to very well miss that conference championship. They have a good enough schedule to make that championship game, but
Yes.
I'm just like, I'm not worried about necessarily the teams that they play. I'm just worried about when they play them, because like Colorado that late in the year off of back to back,
Yeah.
Brendan Marion might have that Colorado offense figured out with the go-go scheme. Like it's an
Which would be
impressive,
trouble.
it's an impressive scheme. And like for this defense and what they have looked like, that's a legitimate nightmare.
Yeah.
And like Arizona State's pretty much in a similar spot, I guess you could say. I mean, it's never the easiest place to play, no matter really who they are.
And Dillingham.
Yeah, it's just knowing Kenny D. It's just ridiculous. You can probably say the same thing about TCU, who we expect to kind of be another one of these like keep an eye on kind of thing, not like a head turner, but
Yeah.
I just don't like where the games land. The schedule, it's not necessarily the hardest thing in the world, but like I said, it's favorable. It's can you sneak out of those really tough road spots? If you don't have anything else, I think we can go ahead. Our next on is going to be Arizona. Arizona, who next sits at 30th in SP Plus, which is right behind Kansas State. This team is bringing back Noah Fifita for his 9th year. This team is one of those teams that you're pretty much in or you're completely way out. They were really, really good that one year. I think it was 2023. Super, really fun team in that 2023 year when you had Fifita, when you had McMillan. It was all eyes were on Jetfish, and it was phenomenal. It was great. And then you lose Jetfish, and then you come in Brent Brennan. Colt Brennan, good lord. Brent Brennan. And like, I mean, you're looking at what is 9-4, 8-4, something along that line. Either way, positive year, very positive year, because they were not supposed to be that good. And that was just the second year, of course. Now, the defense, in this case, they were very, very mid, like the definition of pretty much mid. I think they were good enough last year to not necessarily lose the close games that they were in, but like as far as the offense goes, I mean, they torched everybody that was not in the top rankings. Like if they didn't play, I'm going to say probably like a top 40 to maybe top 50 defense. Like this offense was putting up points. And by points, I mean like 20, 28, almost 30, probably. Like Fafita is that guy. He's very good, very talented, very athletic. Offenses as a whole has always been that way. Now, you talk about Danny Gonzalez with the coordinating that he has done. There's really not a whole lot on this team that is eye-popping in terms of returning production, which is one thing that I am concerned about, because the one spot where you lack, you actually lose a lot more people, and those people are your good people. So you have a couple of decent returnees, but portal-wise, there's not really anything that's like big time, big name, like this should make an immediate impact kind of thing. There's really not a ton of people. I mean, there's like a couple of former blue chips in here, but those are like 50-50s. Like you don't know what they're going to do. Like you had Justin Flo in here, like what is a year or two ago, who was probably one of the most talked about linebacker prospects in the country, who started at Oregon, completely fell off the face of the earth. Like you have no idea. It's just one of those portal things where you just genuinely don't know. The offense this year is just going to have to score more points. That's as plain and simple as that. Like it's what this identity feels like it's always has been. And this team, I think, is just going to find itself still in the middle of the conference. Maybe probably not 9-4 again. I might see a little bit of a regression season. I'm going to say probably closer like 7, probably. Like I said, we'll talk about the schedule there again, but I'm just not seeing a whole lot. I mean, on the outside, I mean, anytime you get an all conference quarterback, you're going to be in some sort of competition. So that's like always a plus, no matter what. That's, you know, it's just, they're so weird because the defense is the reason that they actually won a lot of the games last year, but their defense is not that good. Like they got, like, in terms of luck rankings, I'm pretty sure they were up there pretty high last year, like really high. Lastly, this is where I lose because it's like we're gonna get into it, but this is the biggest or the toughest conference schedule that in this conference by far, and it's not even close.
Yeah, like you said about their schedule. Only team to draw 6 of the top 7 preseason Big 12 teams. You want to travel to BYU? Yep, you're going there. You want to play Texas Tech on the road? Yeah, you can do that. TCU? Yeah, you'll play them at home. Going to Kansas State? Yep, you're doing that too. Utah at home? Yep. Like that's already 5 of the top. That's 5 of the top 5, and then you've still got ASU at home to end your year in the rivalry game. Tough travel to West Virginia. You travel to Washington State and then play Cincy at home and then travel to West Virginia. Like this schedule is just gross. Like it's not fun. And like you said, the offense is going to have to win in shootouts. I think last year they played a lot of teams that didn't have great offenses, which I think helped. So the defense looked a ton better than it was. I love Tredan Stukes, who one of my favorite prospects in the NFL draft this year. So like already there, you're gonna lose that, and can your offense be better than it was last year? While your defense is simultaneously going to get worse and your schedule gets 10 times harder. I definitely think there's regression here back to like 7 wins, and I still think it's a good year, but I definitely think it's a bit of a falling short with the end of the Fafita era.
It's I would have liked to see the schedule last year, if anything, but yeah. Let's see. Next on our board, we have TCU, who sits at 34th in SP plus. I have this team pretty underrated on my board in this conference as far as like talent goes and returning production goes. Obviously, everybody's looking at the big departures and the big returnees and whatnot, or mainly just big departures because that outweighs all of that. People forget that this guy made a national title game. I mean, obviously, we know what happened in that national title game, but they got there, and like it's pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, it's a really similar as far as staff goes. I mean, Sonny has held it together, and it's honestly like it's one of these things where I expect this team to collapse, but it's just like when is that going to happen? Because I just don't know. Like every year, last year I think I've projected them right around the same win market this year, around like 7, and they just, they surpassed that. I mean, you're sitting at 8-4, or 9-4. Sorry, with the bowl, 9-4. Like in like the past 2-3 years now. I mean, I think last year they had a lot of one possession wins, so a similar team to Arizona, in my opinion. I think this year is probably one of the bigger years yet for this staff as a whole, because it's more of what you're going to be able to do with what you got because of who you lost, and it's a lot. You have new coordinator within Gordon Samus, who was, I believe, he's coming from UConn, right?
Yes.
I think, okay. And obviously we know how UConn looked. If you don't know how UConn looked, UConn was very, very, really good through the pass last year. If you do not know their quarterback, I highly recommend to go watch like a game or two because they're a really fun team.
Yeah.
Josh Hoover obviously takes off to Indiana. Jaden Craig comes in from Harvard, and this dude looks like he would be the Ivy League Josh Hoover. Like, I mean, he threw for over 5,000 yards, got almost 50 touchdowns, and only, I think, less than 10 interceptions. And that's like in a part of 2 seasons, I think. Um, like that's the TCU quarterback that we pretty much know and love. So the good thing is, I know we're talking about the schedule in a little bit, but like they get some ground running game or not running game. Sorry, they pretty much hit the ground with their feet running when they jump into the schedule because you don't really play anybody for a good amount of time. Um, I think obviously within the Dublin game that they have, it's kind of hard to project that because we know how these Dublin games have gone, especially last year's. Um, Jeremy Payne is a big returnee. That was huge last year, who broke out, it looked like. Jordan Dwyer comes back, who's a senior at the wide receiver core. Jeremy Scott from Bama. I mean, there's a lot of good notable names that are in here from offensive line. Offensive line's a big one because they added 3 really good guys. Um, but even the defense, I mean, like defensively, one of the really probably one of the best against the run in this conference. The only problem is your secondary sucked like really bad.
Hey, Bud
They
Clark was
were,
good.
yeah, yeah.
That was it.
That was pretty much it. They had zero pass rush whatsoever. They didn't get to the quarterback. Um, like it's the here's like the linemen though, like they had zero experience. They had a lot of young talent. They were very inexperienced as far as portal or not. They were just there. Pretty much got thrown to the wolves and one of the harder versions of that. Obviously, I'm expecting a little bit of improvement because there's just no way that you can get worse than what you were in that category. Um, I think the defense does improve slightly though, even if it is, like I said, slight. At some point though, something has to give for Sonny Dykes' team, and it's just one of those things where like how like what does this team look like, because like this is like probably one of the biggest wild cards he's been handed since he's been there, since that national championship game run. um like they have this conference is very top half where it's just kind of like it is what it is, they're there, but the middle is just like you're either in that conversation or you're not, like you're not even close. This is one of those teams where I just have to kind of like find out what 5 games in. So I mean they were, you have no idea like how what Jaden Craig looks like or who this team in general looks like. I mean, are they a top 5 team in the league or are they after that? I don't know. Like I just don't know how much space I want to give them. But yeah.
I think there's three big questions. It's how how good can Craig be in his first year, and particularly how much better can he get through the back half of the season. I think that's a big question. Second question is, with Bryles gone, can they run the ball now? Because Kendall Bryles refused to have a running game for the 2 or 3 years he was here,
Yeah.
or maybe it was longer. Um, no running game to speak of. 100th in rushing offense last year, and they have good backs and they have a decent offensive line, and it's one of those things where you still need to run the ball to win games. And then the third question is, how can this passing defense be any better than it was last year? Three big questions, but when I'm not asking a gigantic question about your offensive line, that's usually a good start for your team, because that is painted all over college football and the Big 12 this year is, well, if their offensive line works out. I think it's if their quarterback works out and if he's good. And I don't even know if like you said with the schedule, which I'll get into in just a second, I don't know if he needs to be good right away. They're they start with the Dublin game against UNC, then they have a bye, then it's Grambling, Arkansas State at UCF. That's your first 5 weeks of the season. I don't think he needs to be particularly good for you to start 4-0. I think if you can just manufacture points in some way and your defense is slightly better, you should start 4-0. then the BYU game at home, and then it's a bye. So you have 2 byes before October 10th or October 17th, I should say. That should be enough time for Craig to then he's got his feet wet. He's seeing defenses. Like BYU's defense is going to be pretty good. UNC with Belichick, it's going to be it's going to be a good defense. And UCS defense should be improved. And then it's at Baylor, West Virginia, Kansas, at Arizona, and then the last 3 is Kansas State, Utah, at Texas Tech. If Craig is above average, they have a chance to win double-digit games because they are number 1 in the Big 12 in recruiting average in the last 5 years. Yeah. They're tied with Texas Tech, so it's them and Tech. And then Dykes retains his guys. There's not a lot of portaling that happens. They don't really go into the portal much. So it's a lot of retaining. It's a lot of like old Big 12, what TCU does. So if Craig's good, and as much as we like Hoover, there were times where Hoover lost them games.
100%.
With turnovers and things like that. So if Craig is not turnover prone, they could be pretty good.
There's just so many swing games and 50-50 games where you're looking at this team favored or dogs. And I mean, how many one possession games are there? I mean, like, it's insane. This was like the team that had coming off the most one possession wins in the country last year. Like, can you replicate that in the tight win scenarios, or can he be put and trusted into those situations? I will say one thing about the schedule is that they do leave the state of Texas 3 times. That's it.
Yeah.
So, like, even if it's like where you're traveling to, obviously isn't necessarily the easiest thing in the world. I like the road schedule enough to kind of give them a little bit of slack or margin for error, I should say.
And it being so backloaded that you have the ability to figure things out.
I still have to say maybe I'm expecting 7 to 8. But like you said, potential is there enough to very well be up there for 8 to 9 if they win those home games. Like I said, it's a favorable run. So if they win the road games, technically. Well, that's kind of even. I guess you get BYU at home and Utah at home. Your only really, really bad one is Tech. So.
Yeah. I think if they split BYU, Utah, you're looking at a 10-win team.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very doable. We will talk about probably my second favorite team in this conference. And that is the Cougs out of Houston with Willie Fritz in his 3rd year. His team sits 36 SP+. This dude is probably my, like, I can't even put it into words. I love Willie Fritz, like, a lot. I liked them last year. I liked what they did last year a lot. They bring in, was he the number 1 overall recruit, Keyshawn? I'm pretty sure he was. How in the world?
Star.
I wish I don't know. Yeah, no, that's all you need to know. 5-star plus is like you bring in a quarterback to Houston. Done deal. I don't know. The good part about this team, you bring in, like, this is like one of those rare cases where bringing in the new hires at the coordinating staff and just the staff all the way around, they just fit in so well in their first year. And like they looked like they've been there forever. Like, that's the thing. The offense saw probably the biggest jump and I'm going to say probably the biggest jump in the country, maybe arguably. Like, yeah, I mean, you're talking about from like 120 something in terms of like total offense, and talking about that. They were a top 50 unit last year. So like that's massive. Obviously Wigman, not my favorite quarterback in the world, but he got the job done, obviously. He didn't have a bad year from what I mean. It's honestly not the worst thing in the world. But the good thing is that you have 2 really big wide receivers that are coming back and then you have a very, very, very favorable transfer class that's coming in. Like very um, three all conference alignment. You take a receiver from Oregon State who was their leading receiver, and then Mekhi Hughes is coming back. How about that?
Yay.
Very good at Tulane. Obviously, it was Tulane in the American, so a little bit of a different background now, but I like him coming back now. I mean, there's a little bit there. I feel like there might be a little bit. Um, the thing with Fritz is that he knows Hughes. He might know where he can thrive and whatnot. So I think that there could be a little bit of something there that they can kind of cook up a little bit. I would hope. Um, the thing is with Wigman, obviously he can probably be like a shepherd to Keyshawn in a way to Henderson. Um, maybe we see him play early on. Maybe I would love to personally. I just want to see this kid ball, dude. He looks legit. The most like probably athletic quarterback build that I've seen in a long time, and the numbers are ridiculous. From like, I know high school numbers are one thing, but like workouts and stuff, it's just ridiculous. Dude's an athlete. Defensively though, very secondary driven. They are aggressive. They ball hawk. They force turnovers, and they very much so prevent explosive plays, which I love. I love. I love in this conference. Explosive play prevention in this conference, and knowing how these people pass the ball for one, or just run the ball in period in general, huge. It's massive. They didn't even have to portal that much on defense, which is even more because they return a good amount of those people. The only bad part is schedule is not friendly. It's not nice. It's not as nice as it was last year. But you're going to have probably some of the. I'm going to tread lightly. Hold on. Let me back up a little bit. Probably top 5 in terms of like line of scrimmage play. So like you might have a really good
In the
front
Big
7.
12?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh God, no! In the country, dear God. I mean, you could probably argue top 3 in the Big 12, maybe. But like I said, very, very good line of scrimmage team. Very good, very aggressive. They're gritty and they're nasty. I love Willie Fritz as a coach, so I'm rooting for them this year. It's just the schedule is making me backpedal slightly.
Yeah. There's some underlying stuff from last year where they shouldn't have won as many games as they did, and you don't want that to factor into how you look into a team the next year. And you you want to look ahead into what is coming up, and then, but I mean, you look at it and like, yes, Houston's defense was really good at times, and then they were not great at times, like when they let West Virginia score 45 points and lost by 10 randomly. Like they didn't, they allowed explosive passing a lot, like 6.7% of the time, which is 101st in FBS. Like that is something I don't love. They weren't good at forcing negative plays in the run game on defense, which basically just means that teams are getting 3 yards a carry, or at least they're getting one, but you're not letting them get further, which is a good and bad thing in and of itself because they were top 40 in rushing defense. So obviously they were doing things right. Which it's just a weird thing to see that. And then the running game last year, statistically, 178 yards per game, top 40. But your O line run push was 106th. So was it just because you ran the ball 35 times a game? So you just got to 178 yards? I just don't think offensively they were very efficient. Like that has to be something that they fix, which I don't know if that's possible with Wegman. I just think he is what he is. I don't think there's improvement from him. I mean, this is what, year 6. So I don't I don't expect the offense to just take another leap with Wegman. I think if you want another leap, I think Henderson needs to play and should probably play early so that you can get snaps for him, because we know Wegman is somewhat of an injury liability. They went 6-1 in one score games. There's no way that happens again. And if it does, oh well. But you're looking at more like 4-3. Like that's got to go back down to 50% at some point. And then you travel to Texas Tech, to Kansas State, to Utah, to Colorado, and to West Virginia. They have two separate times where they travel back-to-back road games. They travel to Texas Tech in week 3, then to Georgia Southern in week 4. I'm betting Georgia Southern with all of my money to cover that game. And then in late November, you travel to Colorado and then to West Virginia, both places that will be cold in November. It's a weird schedule. Oklahoma State at home. Like I hate their road games, and like their home games are games they should win anyways. So I feel like there is a regression to a record, but it may not be like a statistical regression from how they look on the field. But I don't view this team as a 3-loss team again. I think this is a 7-5, 8-4 team that could, at the end of the year, really excel because Henderson is playing and they are going towards the future.
I will say this might be one of those rare cases where we're probably a year early on like I am.
We say that a lot.
Like I really do think so. But like that's the thing is like how much does or I guess I should word this. How much does Connor Wigman hold this team back? Like obviously these road trips are tough.
A significant amount.
Right.
Because he's not a good passer and he really can he threw for 2,700 yards last year.
That's it.
That is not good. But he ran for almost 800.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, he has a running capability, but even then, Henderson's athleticism blows him out of the water, and it's not even up for debate. Like,
I think the big thing, I mean, Fritz knows what he's like. Fritz, Dykes, and Klein are all alike to me in the fact that like they will tinker and figure out their offense with the players they have. They're not running a specific scheme where it's just we're going to do this whether they can do it or not. It is very much like building around the guys you have. And one reason I'm scared for Houston this year is they don't have Tanner Koziel anymore, and that was Wegman's guy. A tight end.
They did operate, yeah, they operated a lot on the tight end scheme a lot last year. So
that's what's I do think Wegman holds them back in some areas. But he is also trustworthy. He doesn't really turn the ball over. And they should be able to run the ball well. So, like, do we see Henderson against Southern and maybe Georgia Southern and potentially even Oregon State? And maybe he looks really good and maybe you throw him in for some Big 12 games? Wegman is playing against Texas Tech the whole game. Like, I don't think there's a chance that Henderson's coming in to give them a different look, I guess.
No. Fritz is obviously done. You know, he's fine at getting these underlying guys or under the radar people and just finding a way to make it work, like you said. But it's just how successful are these next few transfers, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of questions on this team given the schedule that they have, because it's like how much of that really translates a year later into this kind of schedule, because last year's schedule was not like this. It clearly was not like this.
No, it ended up being, I mean, they didn't play BYU or Utah.
And their best draw was getting Tech at home, and I mean they flopped that obviously, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like, what do you do well?
Yeah,
like, what do you do exceptionally well?
I know your offensive line is good, but like what else?
Will be good.
But it's just like what else? Like what's after that? Like
yeah, it's the same like questions I have with Kansas State, where it's if you're in second and long and third and long and you live in that, you're not beating Texas Tech. You're not beating BYU. You're not beating Utah more than likely, or some of these middle teams like TCU and things like that. And the defenses they play, I mean, Texas Tech, Utah's defense might be worse. Well, I'll say this: they do get a favorable like defense. Like the defenses they'll face aren't going to be like exceptionally good. Like you avoid BYU, so you're not going to play them. So like they may be able to, move the ball, score some points. It may just be their defense thing, where
Yeah.
where their stats may just fall a little bit because of the offenses you're going to play. This seems like a schedule where the offenses you're playing are much better than they were last year that you played.
1000%. Absolutely. Moving on to next on the board, we have the Oklahoma State Mean Green. Eric Morris, year one.
Me.
Congratulations. Got a power forward gig, and you brought everybody with you. And I mean, like, everybody. This team, after bringing over the entire roster from North Texas, has you at 39th in SP+. There is a lot of there's a lot of G5 to power 4 jumps this year specifically. Eric Morris is a lot of people's favorites. Obviously, we already kind of went over of who our favorite of that kind of was, I think, in our first episode. I like it, but we got some work to do. This team is not going to be the same team that went 1-11. We can start with that.
They didn't have an FBS win last year. Holy crap!
No, yeah. You get. Let me see. I mean, you literally just bring the entire North Texas roster. It's insane. Like Mestamaker, obviously everybody knows. Caleb Hawkins, everybody knows. Wyatt Young, everybody knows.
You don't really need to go over anything.
It's literally the entire roster offensively, and most of it defensively. Defensively is where I have my questions. Like offense, we know what they can do. We know what they're capable of. This was the number one offense in like that last jump. Yeah. Defensively, this is where we're talking about. Like this is where we have Skylar Cassidy, who was at Sam Houston, I believe. Is that right? Maybe. Yes. I just don't think that this defense is going to hold its own with the defense. To keep it simple, the thing is that the defense really doesn't have a big job. Like you have to be subpar, like legitimately subpar to win a game. Maybe limit them to like 24 as long as your offense puts up averages like 27 or 28 points per game. You might win you might make a bowl game. I think that's pretty much like the bottom line. Is like as long as you're pretty much doing that, they should win football games. The SP Plus ranking though is really, really high for what I was expecting, because it's just weird. Because then again, the schedule alone, there's a lot of these one possession like projections that I'm like seeing in terms of the SP Plus projection. So like if you are anything under like of what you're expected to be, of that 39th in SP Plus, you are going to be really bad again. And if like nothing else, I mean, again, I think it's really easy to improve 1-11, but it's also not going to be a great look in the world if your year one starts at like 4-7 or 4-8, sorry. And I don't know how much of a possibility that is, but I don't want to say it's nothing friendly. Like it's not necessarily the easiest in the world, but I don't know. There's really not a whole lot about this team. Like we said, we know the offense. It's just, can the defense upgrade or enter a new level of competition? I don't think so.
I think that's fair. I think it's hard to guess what Oklahoma State is going to be defensively. I think we know what they'll be offensively. I guess it's just going to depend on like how good, because they were really good last year in an American Conference, which we know isn't really known for defense. So, like, what is how good is it? I guess, is just the big question. But let's say it's good. Let's say it's, I don't know, top 30. Let's say it's top 30 in college football this year. Do you think the defense can hold Tulsa to under 27? I would say so. Murray State, yeah. West Virginia, I probably. UCF, Colorado, Iowa State, Kansas. I mean, the offenses that they are going to face are not very good outside of Oregon, Texas Tech, and Kansas State. I think those are your three offenses that are going to be very good. Top 25 level offenses. I'll even throw Houston in there. I know it's a road game, but if you score 30, can you hold them to 27? I think it's possible. If it's a Wegman like bad game, if you can stop the run.
Yeah.
So I think if you can get something out of the defense on a consistent level, there is a chance this team is 9-3. I think the schedule is easy. I don't hate the road games outside of Houston and Kansas State. We'll see what Arizona State is this year. I think it's a winnable game. I wouldn't. There are two games on the schedule I would say are not winnable, and it's Oregon and Texas Tech. Outside of that, I think every other game could be, and probably will be within one possession. I think they'll play a lot of one possession games. But I trust Mestamaker and Morris to, be pretty good in those one possession games.
Right.
So if this was a gauntlet of a schedule, I'd say, yeah, you're probably looking at 4-8, 5-7. They'll look good. Give it another year. I think there is a chance that this is an Indiana level rebuild of you got an easy schedule, you've got a good offense, you brought in a lot of defense, and the thing with it is a lot of continuity. It's a lot of North Texas guys. They know the schemes. There's not going to be a ton of adjustment, even if it is a high number of transfers, because they all played together. So I think this could be an 8-win, 9-win team. And it's shocking. And then maybe next year is kind of weird when you get a tougher schedule, or if you get a tougher schedule. But I think they're gonna be really good offensively.
This is probably like the best draw that they could have had. I mean,
It is.
like you're talking about next year. I mean, you're going to get Texas Tech on the road. Do you play BYU at home or do you play them on the road? Do you play Utah on the road or do you play Utah at home? I mean, this is really a really good enough draw to make noise. I could say that.
Agreed.
The only problem that I have is like for some reason I just keep going back to the USF North Texas game. If you guys remember that, like if Alex Golish is putting up 63 on you and your home turf, I mean, like how much is Leftwich going to be doing? How much is Colin Klein going to be doing? How much do we really think are we that confident?
Yeah, but Byron
It's like
Brown would be the second best quarterback they'd play on the schedule.
right. That's what
Maybe.
I mean though. It's
Like,
just the defensive questions outweigh everything for me. Like it's the biggest question mark in here, and it's just like I don't want to say it's like a flipped coin because it's not really. Like we kind of have some sort of identity, like you were already talking about, but it's just how much of it translates. Like we just
fair.
don't know. And then again, they could start out like you were saying. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, maybe 4-2, 5-1.
Yep.
Like, well, I mean, arguably, they beat Colorado at home? I don't know. There's a lot of pick'ems here too. I will add that. Like I said, there's a lot of one possession spreads in here from SP Plus projections. So
Yep.
a lot of questions, lots of unknown, but could be a really fun team.
Yes. All right. I'm out.
All right, we have a little bit of a break there. Jake is headed out, and so I'll be taking over on this one. We have going to continue though. And I'm going to start off the remaining of these Real brief with Arizona State because we still have a couple others to get into, but not really to dive into. Not really worth it, in my opinion. Sorry. Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham. This is a guy, obviously, who we're very well aware of and know of. 42nd in SP Plus rankings. This is a guy who's got almost 20 wins in 2 seasons, and you have a Big 12 title as well in those 2 seasons. There is a little bit of some change of scenery now. There's a lot of questions for this team, just as much as there is for anybody, and I think that this is probably one of the biggest resets or I don't want to call it a rebuild. This is just a complete reset in terms of skill position players. There's a lot. You have a lot of questions at the quarterback position. You have not one, not two, not three, but you have 4 quarterbacks up for grabs for the QB1 battle. Technically is between 2 as of right now, but there are literally 4 QBs going at it right now, and they're all pretty young, except for one that is Mikey King, who is a 6-year, coming from Fresno State / Michigan. Cutter Boley, I think, in my opinion, is going to be the guy going forward. If he's not, I have a ton of questions, and I really don't know why. The kid's good though. He's very blue chip. Believe he was a 4-star at UK as well, but I think the competition obviously is going to be there. So until then, I guess we can't really talk about that or make assumptions. The worst part, your big yards guys. A lot of them are gone. 6 of the top 8 in terms of like yards from scrimmage, like that's it. That's all they have. But you have a lot of upside guys, but it's just a matter of like how much noise do these newer upside guys make, like Kyson Brown, who was actually out last year. So we do know of him a little bit. Jason Brown, who was also kind of in there in the mix a little bit last year. And then you you still have Derek Eusebio, Jalen Moss, and Jaron Hamilton, who were very good on the reception core, mainly because of probably Levitt finding a way. But that's besides the point. I think you have a lot of newcomers, though, that are going to be finding themselves in here. You have a Marion Miller, which is huge. Reed Harris, which is also big. Marquise Gillis is coming out of Delaware State, putting up 1,000-yarder on the ground. The thing here is that, like, Cutter Boley did not come from a good offense. Amarion Miller not coming from a good offense. That 1-2 punch might be kind of filthy. I'm not going to lie. I'd be really excited and entitled to see what that looks like. Given if Marcus Arroyo likes to kind of open the playbook a little bit, I think they can get frisky. A lot of the change, I think, is going to be on the defensive side just as much as the offense is, though. You have a ton of exits. But you also have a lot coming in, like too much coming in for me to even really dive too deep into. But literally in every single skill position there is, you're talking on the line, you're talking in the secondary, in the linebacking core. They're everywhere. There's a lot there. The good thing is that the transfers that are coming in, they do have a lot of experience. Let me see. I believe Marion Winston coming out of Baylor, and then Ashton Stamps, who is a corner out of LSU. Those 2 guys, huge. Like I said, that's like, in terms of veteran, whatever you want to call them, very, very, very good leadership core guys that you want on a defensive unit. I think stuff like the upside young talent is something that's going to be more of a long-term kind of gig if they don't transfer out in the following years. But it's just one of those gambles, man. Like, I don't know how much I want to trust in this team after the amount of success that they've had. Like, we're talking about a fall for the century here. And going to the schedule, you open the year at Morgan State, or hosting Morgan State, sorry. You go to A&M at Kyle Field, and then have a back-to-back going to Lawrence, Kansas to take on the Jayhawks, and then you have a bye to host Baylor. Then you host Hawaii after that. You go to Texas Tech. You go to Kansas State. You hosting Kansas State. Go to BYU. Host Colorado at UCF. Let's see, hosting Oklahoma State, and then you finish the year at Arizona and Tucson. That stretch of like at Tech, hosting Kansas State, at BYU, hosting Colorado, at UCF, again, now, similar to the BYU schedule, you have a list like this, but the difference is, there's not really a difference. I think they're pretty similar because like going at UCF after Tech, Kansas State, BYU, Rado, it's not going to be easy in the bounce house. I have that projected as a pick 'em already as it stands. Not that I think UCF is going to be this really good team. Like I said in the BYU explanation last week as well. It's just not an easy place to play, given all of that they're going to have to go through. It's the same principle. Nonetheless, this is a team that we can briefly dive into as far as the numbers go. You put up 25 points per game last year, and I mean total offense. I mean they were a top 40 unit. Sorry, and the rushing offense on the ground was spectacular, almost 200 yards per game. Would like to see a little bit more on the passing offensive side of things. And then, I mean, like just from the touchdown to takeaway ratio was not there at all. They did not really find a lopsided win or something like anything like that. 6% of dropbacks ended in a sack, which is not very great. That ended you at top 70. The good thing is that like your returning production numbers aren't great, but your returning snaps are, meaning that they just played a lot of guys. There's just not a lot there to really get into as much. Defensively, it was very mid as well, very middle of the pack. Rushing defense was still pretty stout. But I mean, you lose 18 total starters, and like that's like the core of that 2-year stint. So maybe you reload at quarterback. Maybe you find a guy like a young Levitt kind of player. Like maybe that is what Carter Bowley turns out to be. There's just a ton of uncertainties in this roster, specifically the transfer class. And from offensive line to a completely rebuilt defense, like you're talking like almost 1 out of 11, probably. I mean, like how close does that get you? This is another one of those middle of the pack Big 12 teams for me. I just can't see it happening. And this year, I think making a bowl is probably the absolute must. I think it's a win, personally, just given what they are and what they look like. It's just not very friendly on that side of the fence in Arizona State. Next team we'll jump into real quick. Cincinnati. This is a team that I think is just going to fall off the face of the earth completely. I do not like what this team looks like at all. I think this team is really, really god awful, if I'm being completely honest with you. Well, let's see. So you finished 11 last year in the standings. Did they finish? I don't have the standings in front of me. I believe they're somewhere along that line. We'll go with that. 17 of your starters, though, are gone. So you returned 5, including your quarterback for 1, which is just already bad as it is. But your next like wave are coming from FCS, Division 2. Like who? I don't know a lot of these Division 2 people, and that's no disrespect to anybody or whatever. I'm not that guy personally. They are second worst in 5-year recruiting. Second worst. So Scott Satterfield is a bad recruiter for 1. They've never been able to recruit. That's going to always keep you out of title contention, period. Like you draw the bottom 2 teams of Colorado and Iowa State, but also 6 of the top 8. Bowl eligibility is like, we're talking like or we're talking November. Like you'll literally find out in November, maybe. You open the year hosting Boston College, hosting West Carolina, hosting Miami of Ohio. It's a neutral technically, but it's literally right next door to their campus. And hosting Kansas State. You go to Arizona. We go to Arizona, I believe, right? Yeah, sorry. Okay, so we go to Arizona. Then you have a bye. I was thinking the bye was in between. After your bye, you go to Morgantown in West Virginia. You come back home to host Texas Tech. You stay at home, host Utah. So I like those two draws. But after Utah, you go to Houston. Then you go to Iowa State. Then you come back home, host Colorado. Didn't mention that the Houston Iowa State is a back-to-back on the road, which is not easy. No matter who you're playing, I don't care how bad Iowa State might be. And then you finish off the year at BYU. Yeah, this team's going to be bad. Like really bad. You are currently, as it stands, I mean, a 7-point favorite over Boston College on the year, but there's a serious chance that you drop that game, depending on how JC French looks at the QB1 spot. Kansas State, I'm not confident they can win that one at home. At Arizona is another one I don't think I'm confident enough for them to win in. West Virginia should probably win that game with the unloaded offense that they have. This team lost way too much on the defensive front to not handle Cam Cook in that run game with West Virginia. I'm sorry. That should not be a question. Texas Tech's another team. Shouldn't be close. Utah shouldn't be close. Houston, for some weird reason, I don't know why. Maybe they might bounce back there. After going on the road, I don't know. It feels like one of those weird spots. Maybe Iowa State. Colorado's another one where I feel like they should win, but I don't know like how confident I am in this team. Like you have a complete coordinator shakeup here where you have Pete, there's so many. Like this is insane. Nate Woody is a new coordinator from Army for one. But you have Brad Glenn was gone, who was their former. You have QB coach who was all pretty much promoted to the coordinator spot. It looks like, or one of them, I should say. He's technically co-coordinating. And then you have Satterfield still with the play sheet in his hand, which should just not happen at all. I don't understand why this team had, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm looking at a bottom 4, maybe bottom 5 team in the conference again. I just don't see it happening. I don't see why. I don't see how. Maybe if he actually calls up the right plays, they might surprise a couple with a couple of wins here. But I mean, like I'm seeing anything around a bowl game is expected for me here. So yeah, nothing much. I'll finish off the pod with Kansas here. So Kansas sits 55th SP plus. You have a defense that is pretty much held Lance Leopold's entire tenure pretty much just by the horns. Like it's bad how abysmal this unit has been. They've then again, I will say they've been on a somewhat of an improvement. I will give them that. But in terms of SP plus ranking, it is not pretty in terms of what they were sitting at. You're looking at like 70, like top 70 units. Transfers are the biggest thing here that's going to have to make some sort of needle move for me. I just don't see how that happens. Then again, you got a lot of experience on here. I think they have a lot of size. As it's just proven people, there's not a whole lot similar to UC. I mean, there's not a lot of notable names from the notable conferences or anything like that. Maybe if Kotelnicki and the new guy at the helm, I mean, you have who are we having here? Let's see. Well, for one, Jalen Daniels obviously is out. If this offense is to somewhat turn that around, it's going to be because of your transfers. You brought in Dylan Edwards, who is from Kansas State. It was very interesting. You have, I don't even who is our guy here? like I said, there's a lot of exciting people. It's just like Chase Jenkins out of Rice, maybe. Um, Isaiah Marshall. Isaiah Marshall's really the one that I kind of wanted to see personally. They had a top 30 offense, like, mind you. Like, they were not bad. It's just the defense literally held this team back. Maybe it might be Cole Ballard. I don't know. Um, but like, I think Ballard and Marshall have the most upside in terms of dual threat, which is what I love because they're most alike what Kotelnicki seems to like in a guy. But Jenkins, I feel like, is just pure runner. Like from Rice, there's just nothing proven there for me. I think it's going to be a 3-leg QB battle, though. Obviously, there's not going to. This isn't a Big 12 contender, so it's. But maybe, just maybe, if you see a guy like Isaiah Marshall or Ballard at the helm, which I hope one of those two, I think you can kind of see some um, surprising wins. Maybe the here's the thing: this team also did have the most amount of blown fourth quarter losses last year, and it's only going to get tougher because you have the worst 5-year recruiting average in the conference behind UC. And in the past 2 transfer cycles, you have added 1 singular 4-star. And the defense, the thing is, they have all proven or all conference candidates, I should say. Um, but I mean, you place 3rd worst in like an EPA adjusted defense. There's so many questions I have for a bowl bid here. Whenever you have a schedule like this, it's not easy. Open the season hosting Long Island. You host Missouri. Go to Arizona State, or sorry, no, neutral site, London. I did not know that. I did not know that. You go to London for Arizona State game. You have a bye the week after. Come back home, Middle Tennessee State, and then a back-to-back at Utah, at Kansas State. Come back home for Baylor, at TCU. Come back home for UCF, at West Virginia. Come back home for BYU, at Oklahoma State. What in the world? So after Middle Tennessee State, or sorry, yeah, after Middle Tennessee, I mean, like, well, going to be losing Missouri, Arizona State. So you're looking at 2-2. Then we're going Utah, 2-3, at Kansas State, 2-4, Baylor. I think they win Baylor. I'm going to say 3-4 here. At TCU, 3-5, UCF, 50-50 game. I really don't know what that team looks like. Like I said, I really only know of UCF when they're at home. I don't know if I trust them on the road that much. But even then, at West Virginia, knowing how bad this defense was against the run specifically, good God. 97th, allowing 173 yards per game, 4.7 yards per carry. It's over 100th. That's a hard word to say. I don't even say that. Explosive rush. Oh my God. 8.3%. 122nd in the country. Yeah, and if I see at West Virginia on that schedule, it's not a good sign, especially when you're playing a team that could be run heavy again, like Kansas State with Joe Jackson. Maybe they get torched by Oklahoma State too. They might. They just might. Plus, it's senior night for Oklahoma State too, so that's just not an easy helm. That's not an easy draw. Not a whole lot there that's moving the needle for me in Lawrence, unfortunately. I apologize, Maverick. But other than that, that's really all that I have for you guys today. Went over those few teams with Jake, and then obviously finishing it off with those tomorrow. Let's see, today is July 28th. So filming this on the Tuesday, this will be up sometime this evening. We'll be sure to promote that tomorrow on Wednesday, of course, for you guys, which you guys will see eventually. If you're listening to this, it's already, I mean, you pretty much already saw it. Tomorrow or Wednesday, we're looking to have Big Ten Part 1. Thursday is supposed to be Big Ten Part 2. That's the goal. As of right now, that's where we sit. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for SEC next week. Like I said, huge surprise next week. Really excited. We're welcoming our first guest onto the pod. How about that? I'll just give you a little sneak peek into that. That's what's happening. So having a guest next week for the SEC. big things coming. Big things. And after SEC, like you said, we'll dive into the futures on the week after, and then week 0 is right there, boys. So we're almost home. We've almost made it. Just hold on for me, just a little bit. But yeah, that's all I got for today, you guys. I appreciate you hanging out with me today and talking about the middle of the pack in the Big 12. Always a pleasure, always an honor. Love getting to do this. And then, yeah, like I said, we'll circle back. We'll see you guys tomorrow. You'll be hearing from us. Talk about same formats again: contenders, pretenders, middle of the packs, whatever in the Big 10, SEC. A few more conferences, and then we are green light for the season. So super excited, super stoked. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, comment, leave a review, whether you're listening on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Amazon. I don't even know what other platform we're on. We're on all platforms. I know that. It's like literally if you're listening on anything from like freaking iHeartRadio for all I care. I don't know. Leave us a review there. Let us know. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you guys want to hear. Lots of stuff planned for the year. Super excited. Join the Discord. Follow our socials at HammerTime_pod. I'm Cade, and we're signing off today. We'll see you guys tomorrow.